NBA 2K15 is probably the most underrated game in the entire series, and it's not because people didn't like it, it's because of when it came out. Right after 2K14 revolutionized sports gaming with the biggest graphical leap we've ever seen. Right before 2K16 locked in the control scheme we still use today. NBA 2K15 got just sandwiched between two defining moments and just disappeared. But ironically, that awkward timing is exactly what makes it worth playing in 2026. Because 2K15 is the last game before the series figured out its modern identity and formula. It's the last one that feels genuinely different. And if you've been playing newest NBA 2K games and feeling like they all blur together, then yeah, 2K15 will be a breath of fresh air. And if you're watching this and thinking like, yeah bro, but I don't actually own 2K15 on PC or console, well, that's fair. It's not exactly an easy game to get anymore, especially on PC. So, to help you out, I've put a link below the video to a store that I personally use to get older sports games like this. So let's talk about what 2K15 actually was in the context of the entire series. See, 2K14 was more of a tech demo. Groundbreaking visuals, sure, but the modes were shallow as hell. My career was bare bones. Manager career modes were super basic with just my GM and season. The game proved that next gen could look incredible, but it didn't have depth. 2K15's job was to build on that foundation, and build it did. My league finally gave us multi-season, fully customizable manager careers. The backbone of what my NBA is today started here. The modes got real depth for the first time on next gen. But nobody gave a shit because there was no visual revolution this time around. The graphics were still spectacular, and we will get to that later, but there was no wow factor with the new release, no obvious selling point. And then 2K16 came along and basically refined everything. New controls, better feel, it became the template, the standard. And suddenly 2K15 was just, the one after 2K14. But here's why this positioning actually matters in the context. It's because 2K15 marked the end of an era in three specific ways. First, it was the last game with the old control scheme. Circle for pick and roll, triangle for post-up, L2 as the pass modifier. And after 2K16, man, it was gone forever with the new system. Secondly, it was the last game officially on the Echo Motion engine. That lighting system, that specific way player emotions showed on their faces, it was unique to NBA 2K14 and 2K15, and it never came back. And finally, it was the first real next-gen experience on PC. See, 2K14 on PC was still the PlayStation 3 version, that old-school graphics one. And 2K15 was when PC players finally got the actual next-gen game. So yeah, 2K15 was the transitional game, but it's also a snapshot of the series right before it standardized everything, and that makes it fascinating to revisit. Okay, so now that we've established the context of the game, let's get into what actually makes 2K15 stand out when you play it, even today. First, the visuals. The game is over 11 years old and it still looks modern. And seriously, that's not a nostalgia talking. If someone showed you 2K15 footage today without any context, you would think it was some recent sports game. Compare it to what Madden or FIFA looked back in 2014, not even close. 2K was years ahead of its time. And besides the visual fidelity, which is, well, obvious, the Echo Motion lighting was the secret. The way arena lights hit the floor, the way they reflect off players. It doesn't look like a sterile, TV broadcast. It looks like you are there standing courtside. There's a weird warmth to the atmosphere, the weight to the lighting. Like, modern 2K games are more technically advanced, sure, but they don't have this specific atmosphere anymore. Player models are wild too. I mean, just have a look at top stars like LeBron, Kobe, Durant. They look almost as good as they do in today's games. Some role players looked rough, sure, but when you look at the important faces, I think 2K nailed it. But visuals are only half of the story. The real difference is, I think, on the court. This is where 2K15 really separated itself from modern games. Modern 2K games are fluid, maybe too fluid even. Players kinda glide across the court, they like slide. There's this weightless, floaty feel where you are chaining moves together and it barely feels like, feet are touching the ground. In 2K15, well, players have more weight to them. They seem to be taking more actual steps on the court. When you change direction, you gotta commit to it. There's no instant motion cancelling, no chaining random dribbles one after another with the right stick. It makes the game more deliberate, more about positioning and reads than execution and muscle memory. But not everything was picture perfect, of course. Defense was wonky at times, shot contest especially. I don't know, it was kinda off when it comes to blocks. AI wasn't as smart either. Your teammates and opponents didn't exploit space the way modern games do. Part of it is probably because of how basketball was played back then, but you can clearly see that AI was more limited. But here's the trade-off. Shooting was much better. There was no green or miss bullshit. Making a shot was a combination of shot timing, sure, but also player ratings, the shot quality you generated, and a bit of luck. You could actually sink an imperfectly timed shot if you're open with a good shooter and had a little bit luck on your side. And yeah, I get it, my park kids would hate it today. And that shooting philosophy extended also to animation system as well. 2K15 doesn't have pro play like modern games. The animations obviously aren't as lifelike as we have in 2K24 and beyond. There aren't hundreds of shot release variations with tiny timing windows you need to memorize. And to me, that's a good thing. You can read what's happening. You don't need to develop insane muscle memory for every player on your team just to know when to release the ball. It's simpler, more intuitive. For someone who plays career mode and wants to actually enjoy basketball instead of grinding timing windows, yeah, 2K15 is better than the modern games. And beyond the gameplay mechanics, there is another reason 2K15 holds up incredibly well. The NBA itself was in a great place that time. 2014-2015 season was a great time in the NBA. Warriors dynasty was just forming. They actually won their first championship that season. Cavs had their new big three with LeBron back home. Thunder still had Westbrook and Durant trying to get back to the finals. Rockets were making noise with Harden and Howard, and Spurs were at the tail end of the Duncan era. The league had unpredictability, it had some level of parity too. Star power was spread across teams, iconic rosters you remember fondly if you watched ball back then. And so 2K15 is a fun time capsule to play with. But if there is one thing that hasn't aged well, that's the soundtrack. Man, Pharrell Williams curated it and the soundtrack sucked. The tracks might have been fine in a, FIFA game or something, but they didn't fit NBA 2K at all. Too much pop, not enough hip hop, too few memorable beats. It almost seems like Pharrell tried to be original and stand out with his choices in the game, and yeah, he did, just not in a good way. I would take literally any other earlier 2K soundtrack over this one. It's the game's biggest whiff. So, we've covered what makes 2K15 unique. Now, let's talk briefly about why you can't find this experience anywhere else in the series. See, after 2K15, the series locked in. 2K16 standardized the controls. The on-court feeling started settling into specific rhythm that became the foundation for every game since. From that point on, 2K stopped experimenting with how the game should feel and started just iterating within a proven formula. And I kinda cannot blame them, cause that formula worked, and it worked for many years. But it's why modern 2K games feel immediately familiar year after year. And it's also why probably so many of us play NBA 2K games less and less as years go by. And so 2K15 is the last complete version of this old 2K philosophy. And honestly, most 2K games after 2K16 felt kinda inconsequential. Like, 2K played it safe. They made minor tweaks, incremental changes, and you could easily burn out playing them back to back because they were so similar. So if you're tired of that trend, just play 2K15. It will wake you up from a serious coma. It's not better than modern 2K, it's just different, outside the formula. And 11 years later, that makes it one of the most interesting games in 2K series to revisit. Because transition games tend to get forgotten, but sometimes the transition game is the one worth remembering. And right now you can see on the screen the list of Hall of Famers. Those are the most dedicated supporters of my work on my channel. Anyway, that's all from me in this video. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.